After a year of war in Gaza, what's happened with Israel's 3 stated goals?
Hostages.
That's the first one. And Israeli officials have spent a year making statements, pledges, promises. Its military has dropped tens of thousands of tons of explosives on Gaza, killed more than 40,000 people, and lost more than 300 of its own soldiers in combat. And still, there are about 100 hostages in Gaza. Many of their families have been asking all along whether the government is really trying to get them out. An estimated 250 people were taken captive in October, but the Israeli military has only managed to rescue 8 of them. It also shot dead another 3 in a supposed case of mistaken identity. Israel says 36 of those taken to Gaza on October 7 have died, many from Israel's own bombing, but also from injuries sustained when they were captured. But there has been some success. Hamas released 4 hostages in late October and then another 105 during a ceasefire in November. And all this time, there have been protests demanding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agree to a proper ceasefire so all the hostages can be returned. Both Israeli and US officials say Netanyahu has repeatedly sabotaged negotiations for the sake of his own ambitions. That brings us to goals 2 and 3.
Iron determination to wipe Hamas off the face of this earth.
The elimination of Hamas and its military capabilities, and ensuring that armed groups in Gaza no longer pose a threat to Israel. One reason Netanyahu is accused of dragging out the war is to give the military time to set up a permanent Israeli presence in Gaza, and they appear to be preparing for it with the Netzarim and Philadelphia corridors. The 4-kilometre-wide Netzarim corridor has split Gaza in 2, and Israel is using it to block civilian movement between the north and south, and, according to the Institute for the Study of War, to isolate Hamas brigades. Israel's also entrenched itself in what it calls the Philadelphia corridor, the 14-kilometre-long, 100-metre-wide strip along the border with Egypt. Netanyahu's also tried to make Israeli occupation of this corridor part of a ceasefire deal. The Prime Minister's also said he will not accept Hamas control of Gaza again. Aside from total occupation, it's not clear how Netanyahu plans to achieve that. So, has Hamas been defeated? Israel's own military spokesman said the group can't be defeated. Instead, Hamas's 5 regular brigades have suffered significant setbacks. In recent weeks, Hamas's claimed attacks on Israeli troops in Rafah and Khan Yunis have plummeted, leading analysts to conclude those 2 brigades have been severely downgraded. Analysts also say Hamas's 3 other brigades in the central and northern Gaza Strip have lost weapon stocks and personnel. The IDF's also destroyed parts of the Gaza tunnel network. But Israeli media quotes officials as saying these brigades are far from defeated. And the Israeli military is struggling to identify and target Hamas's intact security structure. So, after a year of war, Israel hasn't really achieved any of its 3 aims. And because of Israel's indiscriminate bombings, including of hospitals, analysts warn Netanyahu has only sown the seeds for more Palestinians to take up arms. In fact, in July and August, 3 other smaller groups claimed twice as many attacks on Israeli troops in Khan Yunis than Hamas. And all the while, Palestinian civilians, mostly women and children, have continued to pay with their lives for Israel's war. Which brings us to the 4th goal Netanyahu added after a year of the war on Gaza. This one's not about Gaza, it's about Lebanon. The Israeli military began pummeling the country after Netanyahu promised to make things safe enough for Israelis to return to their homes near the border. And that means stopping Hezbollah. Like Hamas, the group was founded to oppose Israeli occupation, and it's been firing at Israel because of the Gaza war. But Lebanon's civilians have suffered from Israel's recent bombardment. Death and displacement. And as we've seen, for a year in Gaza, getting rid of resistance to Israeli occupation really isn't that easy.